Hey everybody, Pastor Vern for November 6th. It's a Friday, 2020. Here we are, um, coming out to the end of the week again. We've been talking about some fun things from the Bible this week, and we talked about yesterday some of the occupations. And I got to looking around. I thought, you know what? There's some other ones that I want to lift up to you, and where some of them we know about that are pretty common. The potters, that was an important part of the society because pots were used, clay pots spun on a wheel, and then uh, I don't know, whatever the process they have of drying them. There's a name for that. Can't think of it right now. But anyway, that was an important one. Perfumers would travel the world the known world, looking for different fragrances and tried to capture those fragrances and bring them to people, oftentimes at an exorbitant price, but they put a lot of effort in to getting those put together. There was money changers. We know that from the temple. They would swap coins out because you couldn't use a Roman coin to pay your temple tax. It had to be a Jewish coin, and so there was these money changers in there, and people would bring money from all different kinds parts of the world and exchange it in the temple. And of course, we remember Jesus thought that that was a problem because there were those who were dishonest in changing the money. And that was one of the moments that we see that Jesus had a very passionate side and a little bit of a temper, I guess you would say, as he would clear the temple of them. And then there was a whole industry around death. Now, we kind of have that yet today. I understand that. I mean, we hire professionals at the time one of our loved ones passes away to make sure everything's done properly. But in this time period, that was even maybe a little bit more of a profession, because priests were not used for the funerals. That it was different than what we're thinking about. It was the Old Testament law had pretty strict rules about not coming in contact with the dead. And if a priest would come in contact with someone who had passed their body, they would have to go through the process of cleansing from being defiled, and so they weren't really a part of the funeral process like today. Most of us who have faith, we're going to bring in a priest, a pastor, someone who would conduct a what we would call a Christian funeral, and so we didn't see that in that time, but we had something that in that time that was really kind of interesting. Um, they had professional mourners. Now, I mean, these are people who would go from household to household, even sometimes from community to community. And when your loved one died, they would mourn. And I tell you what, one of the terms they use, and let's see, I think this is in Jeremiah from what I was reading earlier. It says skillful wailing women were an important part of that industry. If you could wail and cry on demand, and you really didn't even have to know the person that you were mourning, but that was just part of the process of hiring these mourners. A part of it was the more mourners you had, the more affluent you were in the community, and so it was kind of fake, but it was a part of that industry. Mourning hair was another part of that industry. Uh, we talked about earlier that men in the Bible, Jewish men, were very serious about their facial hair, not wanting to have it cut, not wanting to, that it was an abomination to have it cut too short. Uh, and sometimes during this mourning process, or a national disaster, men would cut off their beards or even pull them out, and that was a huge sign of mourning and wailing and problems that were not solved in any other way, but to be mourned and grieved. And one other with that industry is coffins. Coffins were not a someone who made coffins. That was not a Jewish tradition. You'd be wrapped in a cloth and you would be carried on a briar or a flat board and then laid in a tomb or whatever your family could afford, buried. And really, the first mention of that has to do with the Egyptians. The Egyptians used coffins. It was mentioned in Genesis. And so a coffin maker was someone who would probably have their business would be to the elites of other nations, not of the Jewish nation, even though you could possibly be a carpenter slash coffin maker, but it would probably be to the Greeks or the Romans that you would apply that trade. All right. Well, I guess that's enough about the different jobs for now. We may, like I say, I have a rather large list of the different things. We may look at that later on as we continue on in the next few weeks that we have to share these. I'm hoping to be able to keep doing this up until the time that I will depart ministry in these communities. And so if you keep watching, we'll keep putting them out. All right. Well, y'all take good care of yourselves. You watch out for others and be safe. Later.